The cowboy had ridden for 3 days with only a few coins left in his pocket. Hungry, exhausted, and desperate for work, he stopped at a quiet Apache ranch and asked the young woman standing at the gate for a job. She looked him in the eyes, smiled, and said something he never expected. "I don't need another ranch hand. I need a husband." What happened after that surprising moment changed both of their lives forever. The morning sun had barely climbed above the distant hills when a lone cowboy guided his tired horse along a dusty trail that seemed to stretch forever. His clothes were clean but worn from years of hard work. His boots carried the marks of countless miles, and the small leather bag tied behind his saddle held everything he still owned. Just a year earlier, he had worked on a family ranch that had belonged to his parents. Seasons of dry weather had slowly taken away the crops, the cattle, and finally the land itself. With nowhere else to go, he had spent months traveling from ranch to ranch, earning enough to buy food, repair his saddle, and keep his faithful horse healthy. His name was Daniel Carter, and although life had taken almost everything from him, it had never taken his honesty. That morning, he stopped beside a narrow stream to let his horse drink. As he filled his canteen, he noticed an older traveler struggling with a wagon whose wheel had slipped into deep mud. The man looked exhausted. Without asking for anything in return, Daniel tied his horse nearby and spent the next 2 hours lifting stones, cutting sturdy branches, and working until the wagon was free again. "You have already lost half your day," the traveler said gratefully. "At least let me pay you." Daniel simply smiled. "Keep your money," he replied. "You may need it before this journey is over." The old man watched the cowboy ride away with quiet admiration. By late afternoon, Daniel reached a peaceful valley unlike any he had seen before. Wide fields of green grass stretched toward gentle hills where horses grazed freely. A clear river wound through the land, reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. Near the center of the valley stood a beautiful ranch surrounded by sturdy wooden fences and towering cottonwood trees. As Daniel approached the entrance, he noticed someone repairing a section of fence with practiced hands. It was a young Apache woman. She looked up calmly as the cowboy removed his hat. "I came to ask if you might need another ranch hand," he said respectfully. The woman studied him for a long moment before a faint smile appeared on her face. "I do not need another worker," she said softly. Daniel lowered his eyes, ready to thank her and leave. Then she spoke again. "What I need is a husband." For a moment, Daniel wondered if he had misunderstood her. He looked at the young Apache woman, expecting to see a smile that would reveal she was teasing him. Instead, her expression remained calm and sincere. "I beg your pardon?" he asked quietly. She set down the hammer she had been using and brushed the dust from her hands. "I know my answer sounds strange," she said. "Please, come inside. You have traveled a long way, and this conversation deserves more than a few words at the gate." Daniel hesitated. Every lesson life had taught him urged him to be cautious, but there was something about her steady voice that made him feel at ease. He followed her to the ranch house, where the smell of fresh bread and vegetable stew filled the air. She invited him to sit at a simple wooden table while she poured 2 cups of hot coffee. "My name is Ayanna," she said. "This ranch belonged to my father. Before he passed away, he asked me to protect it and to keep it open to anyone willing to work honestly." Daniel introduced himself and thanked her for the meal. As they ate, Ayanna shared her story. "Many men have come here over the years," she said. "Some wanted the horses. Others wanted the land. A few only wanted the name that came with this ranch. They all spoke about what they could gain." She looked directly at Daniel. "You never asked about the size of this place or how many cattle I own. You asked only if there was work to be done." Daniel lowered his eyes. "I have learned that nothing belongs to us forever," he said. "Land can be lost. Money can disappear. A good name is much harder to replace." Ayanna smiled. "This morning, I saw you helping an older traveler whose wagon was stuck in the mud. You stayed until the job was finished, even though no one was watching." Daniel looked surprised. "You saw that?" "I did," she replied. "That told me more about your character than any introduction ever could." She folded her hands on the table. "I am not asking you to marry me today. I am asking you to stay here for a while. Let us work together, learn who we truly are, and then decide whether our paths were meant to become one. Daniel accepted Ayana's invitation, but only on one condition. "If I stay," he said, "I will earn my place here like everyone else." Ayana nodded with quiet respect. "That is exactly what I hoped you would say." The next morning, Daniel was awake before sunrise. While the valley was still covered in a soft blanket of morning mist, he was already repairing fences that had been damaged by the weather. After that, he cleaned the horse stalls, checked the water troughs, and helped move a small herd of cattle to fresh pasture. He never waited to be told what needed to be done. Whenever he noticed a problem, he quietly solved it. Ayana worked beside him every day. She knew every corner of the ranch and every horse by name. She managed the land with patience and wisdom, and Daniel admired how she treated both neighbors and travelers with fairness. As the days passed, they shared stories while working. Daniel spoke about the ranch where he had grown up and the lessons his parents had taught him about honesty and hard work. Ayana told him about her father, who believed that a person's character was more valuable than wealth. Their conversations became easier with each passing day. Before long, the people living nearby began to notice that the lonely ranch felt warmer than it had in years. Neighbors stopped by more often to trade supplies or simply enjoy a cup of coffee on the porch. Not everyone welcomed the change. One wealthy ranch owner had hoped that Ayana would one day choose him as her husband. Seeing Daniel at the ranch filled him with jealousy. Soon, whispers began spreading through the valley that the cowboy was only pretending to be kind so he could claim the ranch for himself. When Daniel heard the rumors, he said nothing. He simply returned to work, believing that the truth would reveal itself through his actions, not his words. A few days later, dark clouds gathered over the valley, bringing the heaviest rain anyone had seen in years. The peaceful river quickly rose, and water began flowing across the lower fields. Without waiting for instructions, Daniel saddled his horse and rode toward the pasture where several horses and cattle were trapped by the rising water. Working side by side, he and Ayana calmly guided the frightened animals to higher ground. When an elderly couple from a nearby homestead became stranded, Daniel carried supplies to them while Ayana organized neighbors to help protect their home. Before long, people from every direction joined together, setting aside old disagreements to help one another. By the following morning, the storm had passed. The ranch had survived with only minor damage because everyone had worked as one community. The wealthy ranch owner who had spread rumors quietly walked up to Daniel. "I judged you without knowing you," he admitted. "You never cared about this ranch. You cared about the people who call it home." Daniel simply smiled. "A ranch is only land," he said. "The people are what make it worth protecting." As Ayana watched the conversation, she realized her father had been right all along. The strongest person was never the one with the most land, but the one with the kindest heart. The valley looked brighter after the rain. Fresh grass covered the hills, the river returned to its gentle flow, and life on the ranch settled into its familiar rhythm. Yet something had changed in the hearts of the people who lived there. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with shades of gold and orange, Ayana asked Daniel to walk with her beneath the tall cottonwood trees near the edge of the ranch. "I have been thinking about the day you first came here," she said with a warm smile. Daniel laughed softly. "I remember it well. I was certain you were about to send me away." "I almost did," she admitted. "But then I remembered what my father always told me. He said the right person would arrive with honest hands and a humble heart, not with promises or riches." She looked into Daniel's eyes. "You came here asking for a job. Instead, you gave this ranch something it had been missing for a long time." Daniel smiled. "And what was that?" "A true partner." A few weeks later, friends and neighbors gathered at the ranch for a simple celebration. There were homemade meals, music, laughter, and stories shared beneath the open sky. It was not a grand event, but it was filled with genuine happiness. The elderly traveler whose wagon Daniel had helped on the dusty road was among the guests. As he watched the couple together, he smiled, knowing that one small act of kindness had quietly changed the course of a life. Daniel had arrived with little more than hope and an honest heart. He believed he was searching for work, but he found something far greater. He found a place where he was valued, a family that welcomed him, and a future built on trust, kindness, and respect. As the evening sun disappeared beyond the hills, The ranch stood as a quiet reminder that the greatest blessings often arrive when we least expect them. Daniel came looking for a job because he had lost almost everything he owned. Instead, he found a home, a family, and a woman who believed that an honest heart was worth more than wealth or status. Ayanna honored her father's final wish by choosing a man for his character rather than his possessions. Together, they built a future where kindness, hard work, and trust became the foundation of every new day. Their story reminds us that true happiness is not found in what we own, but in the people who stand beside us through every season of life. If you enjoyed this story, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming Old West stories filled with courage, compassion, and unforgettable journeys. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new adventure. And now we would love to hear from you. If you were in Ayanna's place, would you have trusted Daniel after meeting him for the first time? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to sharing another inspiring Western story with you soon.